Okay, and now we have Norvin presenting on assessing the feasibility of skipping tree marking for selected harvest, a comparative study in the Haliburton Forest. And he's supervised by Rasoul and Adam from Haliburton Forest.
Hi everyone, my name is Norvin. My presentation today is assess the feasibility of skipping tree marking for selection harvest. Before I start, I want to introduce what selection harvest. Okay. Before I start, I want to introduce what selection harvest is. Selection harvest is to remove certain trees with criteria such as their size, species, health, or economic value, which is determined by different silvicultural goals. The typical example includes single tree selection, shelter wood system, or commercial thinning. The left graph shows how shelter wood system works. The first cut, preparatory cut, remove unhealthy and undesirable species to generally improve the stand quality. When the new regeneration grew up, with the protection of the seed tree, the final cut will remove almost all seed tree. So an uneven age forest is turned into an even age forest. The line chart shows the trend in silvicultural system in Ontario hardwood system. We can see that the clear cut is being abandoned because it removes all vegetation, damage the habitat for wildlife, and reduce the regeneration of shade-tolerant species. Single tree selection and shelter wood system is gradually becoming more and more popular. Before logger come in and cut the tree marking is a necessary step, which is usually finished by a professional tree marker who received proper training in the past. They not only individually evaluate the tree regeneration ability, quality, and the potential for wildlife habitat, but also how to consider the species composition, density, and structure from stand perspective. To be a certified tree marker is not very easy. They have to take necessary course and pass the exam. That is why the cost of hiring a tree marker is high. To simplify the process, the loggers sometimes are asked to choose tree by themselves. However, their salary is based on the harvested volume. We worry that they only cut the largest tree. So in forestry, we call it high grading cutting. Actually, previous study has shown that logger-based selection can achieve acceptable outcome, but they all focus on the thinning practice in European plantation forest. So in this study, the main objective is evaluate whether logger can meet shelter wood prescription. Specifically, I want to evaluate whether logger-based selection has a significant impact on the health and size classes of harvested trees. Also, I want to evaluate whether logger-based selection has a significant impact on residual basal area harvested volume. Second, I want to evaluate whether skipping tree marking has a significant impact on forest's future growth. Finally, I want to determine if skipping tree marking is economically beneficial. This is our study plot, which is located in Haliburton Forest, a 35,000 private forest in the south of Algonquin Park. The forest type is northern hardwood, including sugar maple, American beech, and yellow birch. We have three marked plots, three unmarked plots, and one control plot for fuel environment. There are two subplots within each plot. The examined silvicultural system is seedling cut in shelter wood system. The target residual basal area is between 12 to 16 square meter per hectare. The seedling cut can first promote the forest regeneration because the seed tree provides partial canopy cover, which creates a moderate light condition optimal for the growth of sugar maple. Second, it can reduce the competition by removing less desirable and weak tree to allowing the remaining trees access more water, light, and nutrients. The reduced competition then can ensure that remaining trees grow better in the future, so their timber quality is expected to be high. Before harvest, sugar maple accounted for 74% of total stand, which is followed by the American beech and the yellow birch, with low presence of ironwood and red spruce. The second pie chart shows that the AGS tree and UGS tree are almost half and half. UGS is unacceptable growing stock. They are mostly unhealthy and their quality is expected to decline in the future. AGS is acceptable growing stock. Conversely, they are mostly health and vigorous tree, and we believe they can at least maintain their quality in the future. This is our 30 meters square. The center person records the distance from the tree to the center and the angle from the north. The other person check around the tree and record the species, DBH, AGIs, and UGIs, and soil quality for each tree, and height for 3 dominant trees. Every tree is labeled with a lamina tag with a unique ID. So we know the angle and the distance. We can transfer the field data into a stamp map. We can easily locate every tree and know which tree is removed after harvest. Using this method, we keep our judgment consistent, and we also collected 30 cross-section from the stamp to calibrate and validate forest model 30. I use Pearson chi-square, VLGT types, and logistic regression model to compare the harvest outcome in the two treatments. I want to place my emphasis on the 30 ND. 30 is an individual-based model. It is highly customizable. It can predict each tree's growth, not an average. It's 4 interconnected module: light, growth, mortality, and reproduction. They are highly interconnected. For example, the dark green tree can grow taller than the light green tree, allowing them capture more light and grow faster. However, they may face a high mortality rate when they grow too slowly. The curve in the graph are determined by different mathematical functions in 30. Okay, let's return to the table. I use 30 to predict the basal area over the next 20 years. And I calculate how much money saved on tree marking by calculating the net present value. The chart shows the total number of harvested trees. The trees are categorized by their health classes and size classes. The Pearson chi-square test shows that the selection method, health classes, and size classes are independent, which means logger and tree marker should exhibit same pattern in tree selection. The dashed line in the left graph represents the target residual basal area. Unfortunately, neither of treatment's residual basal area fell within this range. Even though the harvested basal area in ARMA treatment is slightly higher than that in MAR treatment, the basal area before and after harvest are now significantly different in the two treatments. The red graph shows the residual seed tree basal area. In MAR treatment is slightly higher than ARMA treatment, but they are now significantly different. I use the data from another experiment conducted in Haliburton as well to develop a logistic regression model to classify the timber into sawlog and firewood. The results show that the harvested sawlog volume in ARMA treatment is higher than that in MAR treatment. However, the harvested volume of sawlog and firewood are not significantly different in the two treatments. The left graph shows the calibrated 30 can predict the tree growth well. And the red graph shows that the basal area over the next 20 years. The basal area in MAR treatment is always higher than that in ARMA treatment. However, their confidence interval overlaps, so we believe they are not significantly different in the future. So now the only difference between tree marker and logger is their salary. In this study, the tree marker salary is $95 per hectare, whereas the logger's additional salary for tree selection is $75 per hectare. I use this equation to calculate the net present value saved on tree marking over the next 20 years. However, I believe the loggers could accept less than $75 in the future. So the line chart shows the money saved on tree marking varies with the interest rate and the additional salary paid to logger. For example, if the NPV is $1,000 per hectare harvested annually, in Haliburton, the annually allowable harvest area is 1.3 thousand hectare. So potentially $1.3 million will be saved on tree marking. To summarize, To our surprise, neither of treatment's residual base area fell within the target range. However, the loggers seem to have done a better job. Second, the harvest outcome in the two treatments are not significantly different in any aspect, at least statistically. Finally, skipping tree marking could potentially save millions of dollars. The main limitation of this study is that we only examined one logger, so eliminating the generalizability. While the findings do not provide any evidence to support that loggers can entirely replace the tree marker, they do suggest that the tree marker sometimes is not as reliable as we think, especially in terms of estimate of residual base area. Considering the loggers result is not that bad, and they can improve their skill in the future. So we believe they show potential to take over the tree marking. However, their harvest outcome should be monitored regularly to avoid the high grading cutting. Next, I want to introduce metalloscope. Metalloscope is a specialized permanent plot designed to study and analyze human decision-making for tree selection. The trees in the plot are mapped, measured, and classified based on their economic, ecological, and structural attributes. We can summarize and visualize the outcome of a virtual tree selection. They can be used as a useful research platform to evaluate harvest strategy and analyze the tree selection behavior. A good news is that Haliburton have planned to establish a metalloscope in next few years, and hopefully a network of metalloscope can be established in North America. Finally, I want to thank all people who support this project, especially to my friend James, who collect data with me, and Professor Rasoul, Adam, and Paul, Tony. Thank you very much.
We're just gonna turn the camera back on. Apparently it was turned off. And Adam, do you have any questions? Oh. Adam, do you have any questions? Is he on? Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, maybe we can start with Rasoul. Oh, okay. Adam? Okay, let's start with Rasoul still.
If Adam cannot talk, maybe he can write the question and then Laura can read that. Thanks, Norvin. So your result is surprising, I think, for me and also for Adam and maybe John, who is here as well. I don't have the question about the results, but we have tried SORT-TND this year because Sean is always commenting that TPG is not the best model in the world and SORT-TND should work better. My question is that applying this model in the Haliburton Forest conditions, what were the challenges for application of the model? And do you see that the model could have potential benefits if calibrated well for Ontario forests?
Yes, I would say SORT-T is a very complex model. Even though the SORT-T can already calibrate for the sugar maple in north, especially in the north of USA, I borrowed some of the parameters from the existing literature and adjust the growth rate a little bit. So I would say it can predict the sugar maple growth and the yellow birch in Haliburton well. However, because I only use the basic permanent, the component in the model, like the growth, mortality, and the reproduction, there are a lot of behaviors in the model. Even though within each modules, like the growth, you can use several behavior to define one module. This is very complex. complex. So I think the main purpose of using sortie is that I learn how to calibrate it. I learn how to apply the model to a forest growth, but I have to gain more field data to calibrate it and to make it more general. I need to more field data to adjust the model to apply it to a general stand.
Okay. All right. I think Adam's ready to ask a question. Oh, okay. All right. Here you go.
Okay, so now he has two questions. One, fundamentally, the reason we don't usually allow loggers to harvest in without tree marking is that we are worried they will be high grade. Based on your results, did this happen in the experiment?
Yeah, what's the
Oh.
question?
Okay, so his typing is not complete, but so I'll repeat the question. So fundamentally, the reason we don't usually allow loggers to harvest in without tree marking is that we are worried they will be high grade. Oh, they will high grade. Based on your results, did this happen in the experiment?
No, actually, the results show that logger and tree marker show that almost the same pattern. Means they didn't harvest enough trees, so that's why it's surprisingly they didn't result in any high grading cutting. But in the future, they might result in the high grading cutting if we don't monitor the harvester outcome regularly. Yeah.
And so, but in terms of the quality of what was harvested, like, was that examined? Like, did someone actually look at what came out, not just how much?
I examined the AGS and the UGS, and
And it was similar?
yeah,
like-
it's a similar. The results show, at least statistically, they are similar, and the results show that they didn't cut enough tree. Yeah,
Okay, I
so
see.
definitely no high grading cutting for this study. Yeah.
And does that-
So Adam's second question. One challenge with not tree marking and allowing the logger to make their own decision is that it is hard to audit the logger. Tree markers are regularly audited after they have marked the trees and before the trees have been harvested. If a logger cuts the trees without marking them, then one can only conduct an audit after the harvest, when many trees are already gone. Is there a good way that a logger can still be audited on their tree removal decisions?
Yes, I think one good way to audit the logger is that they can classify the loggers within certain area and count the logger number. So, and we have to set a penalty, like a system, like what if the loggers cut too much log? So we have to like reduce their salaries in the future. So in that way, it is a good method to avoid the high grading cutting in the future.
Okay, any others from Adam, or is that it? Okay, thank you. All right, Sean has a question.
Yeah, there's a couple I mean, it's first of all a bit odd to have a shelterwood cut in a sugar maple dominated stand, right? These would normally be selection silviculture cut, where the basal area target would be around 20, and in both cases, your tree markers in fact marked it to around 20, and so I mean, I suspect that, or the loggers did as well, and so I suspect that you know, they were behaving as they're accustomed in these stands, and so somehow these revised and much more aggressive kind of harvests that did not get communicated successfully to the tree marker or the logger. So that's point one. And the other thing is that n = 3 is a very small sample size. And the overall patterns to me look like, as you would kind of predict, that the loggers were in fact marking quite a bit more aggressively. And so I would be very cautious about a type 1 error here, that you didn't have a big enough sample size to detect what in fact was a pretty big difference.
Yeah. So to answer the first question, yeah, also include this point in my paper. So maybe I also like the Adam told me, okay, I will implement the shelter rule system at the last minute. So before that, I think this first will be implemented by the single tree selection. So yeah, it should be a potential reason why the tree marker like not don't cut enough tree. The second question is that, yeah, I have to acknowledge that the plot is not big enough, but the tree is enough. Like within our study plot, I collected more than 500 trees in total. So also, even though the subplot is 30 meters square, there are almost 40 trees within one subplot. So because the time is limited, I only have 1 or 2 months, and yeah, in the future, if I have a chance to like do this experiment again, yeah, I will expand the study plot. Even though within not only the study plot, within one professional group, I only like examined one logger. So more loggers should be examined in the field.
So you said, so there was only one logger, is that right?
Yeah.
What you just said, okay. And was there only one tree marker?
I think basically 2 or 3 tree markers involved in this experiment.
Okay, because I was, you're saying that neither the loggers nor the tree markers marked or cut enough trees. And that doesn't really surprise me with the tree markers, especially if your sample size, the number of different tree markers is low, because if you have a conservative tree marker, they're going to mark it conservatively. So yeah, I guess my just a follow-up suggestion from Sean would be, if I know you're not probably going to do this over again, but if Haliburton were to do it again, would be to increase the number of loggers, first of all, but then also try to have the same number of loggers and tree markers so that the variation that arises among individuals isn't greater for one treatment versus another.
Yeah, I think, yeah, because in the future, we might have several the metaloscope. So people can do this experiment within a virtual plot. The tree are mapped and measured based on different attributes. So they don't need actually cut the tree to make the experiment more easy.
Right, well, except for, it's not, that works for tree markers, but loggers probably don't make the same choice if they're, don't actually have a chainsaw or a skidder next to them. So virtual logging probably isn't quite that realistic, but might be worth a try.
I think the 2 professional group can select tree within one plot. Yeah.
Yeah. No, my point, it was an interesting idea. I hadn't thought of it before, but I'm just saying that a virtual tree marker experiment is relatively similar to the conditions under which a tree marker works. But if a logger doesn't, have a chainsaw and a skidder, they're probably going to make different decisions because it's not, it's rather different. In other words, the logger can see how the forest is changing as they cut the trees, whereas the tree marker is just, painting the trees. And so the value of a virtual experiment is probably greater for tree markers than for loggers, but it still might be worth doing.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so Adam just made a comment. The main reasons we chose a shelterwood cut is that we cored trees in the stand and found it to have two distinct age classes, which is the main reason to prescribe a shelterwood cut and a hardwood stand. We also thought it would be easier for the logger to implement a shelterwood cut than a single tree selection cut because it's less complicated.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, if not, I actually have one more question. So something else that tree markers do is identify like wildlife trees and things like that. So if tree markers weren't in the picture anymore, how would that be done? Like what's the logistics around that you see?
For the wildlife tree,
Yeah.
I think the wildlife tree in the stand is very not too much. It's only like 1 or 2 within the whole plot. So but identifying the wildlife tree is hard. Like some cavities in the tree and some animal living inside. It is a challenge for both tree marker and loggers, I think, yeah. I didn't like compare the number of wildlife tree in this study because it's very hard and
Right.
yeah.
So, okay, so maybe tree markers would still need to be involved in that type of thing.
I would say like the future will better like still use the tree marker in the future. It is a very like conservative method, and gradually if the logger can achieve the prescription, and we can gradually replace the tree marker gradually.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.